Caitlyn, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so excited that you invited me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm excited to talk to you a little bit about your journey building your jewelry business and the lessons you've learned and whatever else comes up during our conversation. Um, but this is obviously a really special episode because you're also a dear client of mine. You've been in the JBA for a couple of months now. How long would you say it's been? Is it like 4 or 5 months?
I think more than that. I'm pretty sure I joined, I want to say June, maybe May, something like that. But yeah, it's been a little while. I joined right when things were getting crazy with my summer season. So I think I spent the majority of the summer with the JBA kind of on the back burner for me, but I've been able to dive in a little more recently and it's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah. So this is really special because I obviously know you and your business a little bit. And so I'm excited to have you on the podcast. So, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, do you want to go ahead and give you a little intro as to who you are, how you got to where you are today, and also just to give some context? I know it's always helpful for our listeners to understand what type of jewelry you're making, how involved you are in the process, and even if you're open to sharing like the price range, it always helps people get some context.
Okay, yeah. My name is Caitlyn. I own Caitlyn Chapman Studio. So I make West Coast kind of nature inspired, but very wearable silver and sometimes gold jewelry. Um, I started in a fine art education straight out of high school. So I've always been in artsy pursuits, but the first thing I actually got educated in was photography. And I was a professional photographer for about 5 to 10 years, as well as working in photo finishing and technical retail sales. And it's almost like, when you're driving somewhere you drive often and you get there and you're like, I don't even know how I got here. Sometimes I feel that way about my jewelry business because sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, I have to make jewelry today. That's kind of cool. Um, I quit my photography business because it was just stressing me out too much. It was like, I love it and I still do it as a hobby, but as a business, it was just not working for me. And I floated around a little bit before inheriting a diamond from my grandmother, and it needed to be reset. And kind of through that whole process of learning this setting and that material and this jeweler and that jeweler, I just went down a rabbit hole and I never came out. I'm still down there. And that was about, well, almost 10 years ago. Um, and I just started actually selling my jewelry and making a business out of it in 2020. Actually, the week that things went crazy with COVID. So wonderful timing. But yeah, it's been a journey. And all of my jewelry is handmade by me. My process is mostly lost wax casting with a little bit of hand fabrication as well, kind of combining the two. And we do all of our own casting. And that's kind of my hubby's department. He went ahead and learned all of that so that we could do it all in house. Um, and yeah, that's where we're at now. I'm just kind of learning how to do the business side of things and try and make systems and processes in place so that it's less stressful on a daily basis
Yeah.
and learning to grow.
I love this so much. I think it's so interesting how you shared, you kind of like feel like you kind of wake up some days and you're like, oh my God, I get to create jewelry today. I get to make jewelry for people and ship it out. And it is kind of surreal when you think of it, where it's like, wow, this is what I get to do as my career. This is what I get to do like for the rest of my life if it's something that I really enjoy, which is so, so special. But I want to talk a little bit because it's so interesting that you had that business in as a photographer for so many years. I mean, that's also an incredible business to have. And what's interesting is I have other clients as well. I don't know if you guys have connected yet, but who are also in the photography industry. And what they have shared, and I'd like to know your kind of take on this, is that when they transition to building a jewelry business and they've been shooting photos of people and stuff for years, shooting jewelry was a whole new ball game for them. What and obviously you are really good. Like your photos are gorgeous, they're stunning. But I'm curious to know if it's always just been easy or if you had to like really practice, if you remember that.
Yeah. Interestingly, my specialty with photography was fashion.
Mm.
So I was familiar with the idea of photographing goods rather than the humans that wearing them. Like models are important, and I also did shoot a lot of model development, but understanding how important the garment and or the ring or whatever is in the end photograph. The technicality of it, so the lighting and being able to shoot up close, macro, what have you, I understood that, but I hadn't done it as my job. But it didn't take me long to figure out. And actually, when I quit photography, I sold all of my lighting equipment. I sold my camera, all my lenses, everything. And then when I started doing jewelry, I was like, uh-oh, I need to get another camera. So I bought a completely different camera and a macro lens. And so that has been my setup ever since. And I've used mostly natural light with a little bit of whatever, whatever. Um, but I do think that my ability to take an excellent photo of my pieces is what allowed my business to kind of have a little extra boost when it started.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to Instagram being well, not what it is now. Back then, it was, you could get away with just good images rather than having to dance on camera and do all of that. And yeah, I had people asking me to buy my stuff as soon as I started posting it because the images were so exciting. Um, so the transition from shooting people and pets, which is what I did, to shooting jewelry was not difficult, but it was definitely interesting.
Mm.
I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear that. And, yeah, Instagram's changed a lot over the years. Those were the good old days. I mean,
Yeah.
I still love Instagram, but it's definitely just the way you show up has changed. The way you need to show up to drive engagement, drive sales has changed. And on one level, it's actually making it easier for you to be lazier in marketing, if that makes sense. It just takes a
Mm-hmm.
while to understand the strategy behind that. But once you do and you start kind of rolling with it, you can be lazier. It's less work than those photo shoots.
Yes.
But I want to talk about obviously, so you built this photography business for like 10 years, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And it's really hard when you've invested time and energy and money into building something or going in a career or studying, even for 2 years at university. Um, when you've invested time into something, to recognize that, okay, I really enjoyed this for a season and now I want to go in a different direction. A lot of people struggle to actually make that change because in their mind they're like, but then I've wasted 10 years getting to this point, and they don't recognize like, no, these 10 years are so valuable and they've given me the skills and the courage to now go in another direction, and
Mm-hmm.
it holds them back from like making that shift. So what was your experience with that?
To me, the shift has been kind of the best decision I've ever made, first of all. And those last couple of years that I was trying to make a go of it as a photographer were some of the darkest times of my life. But I wouldn't trade them for the world. My experience as a photographer, my skills that I gained and honed doing that, I use them every day,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the people that I met and the relationships that I built, super important. So when I made the decision to quit, it felt like such a relief and a release. And I know not everybody is going to feel that way. It's going to feel like really painful to give up on whatever they're giving up. But to me, it was just so And I spent, I think, a good year or so kind of in between, just floundering, taking kind of whatever day job and this and that and trying to figure it out. And I think that understanding that being in the same job or the same career for 30, 40, 50 years is not really a thing we do all that much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that it's no longer looked down upon to change careers. It's cool, it's exciting, it's interesting, and each career and each thing that you do is just more skills in your pocket for the next thing that you're going to take on. And that's kind of the way I've viewed it. I wouldn't trade those skills for the world. They've been so important to me. And it's also just it's a leisure activity for me now. I enjoy photography just for fun. So
Mm. I love that so much, Caitlin. And one thing that you shared that really resonated with me, actually, and I think is such a good reminder to our listeners as well, is that, you know, you get all these skills and all this knowledge and all this experience from all the different roles you have in your life and your education and whatever it is. And that is actually kind of your secret sauce. So when it comes to you building a jewelry business as well, like obviously there's so many different unique factors, but and there's a million jewelry businesses that have been built. We all know this. But
yes.
nobody with your specific set of skills, your specific set of tastes, your specific set of like things that you're wanting to bring into the world has done it. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the secret sauce. I mean, even how you shared like the photography thing set you apart in the early stages in your business. That was like a huge part of it. So, you know, I even look at my journey. There's no other jewelry business coach with a BSc in science. Like that doesn't exist. Who's
Right.
also done marketing. Like that little combination is like the secret sauce. And so everybody has their secret sauce, essentially, that combination of skills they've honed in on over the years. And that combination is what makes your business unique as well. But thank you for sharing that. So, talk to us a little bit about the jewelry business. Obviously, you've been in business now, I think it's 4 and a bit years coming up. You're in your fifth year, essentially.
Yeah, we're coming up on celebrating 5 years, I guess, in March. Um, yeah, it's it's been a journey, and I think that again, another part of the photography thing and the kickstarting thing was I really felt like I was so excited when I started, and I was sharing everything that I did and selling stuff to people probably before I had any business selling anything to anyone. But it was happening and it was going out there, but I was going through my growing pains as a metalsmith, learning metalsmithing while still selling and being viewed and perceived by other people, which as a neurospicy people person, I hate being perceived,
Yeah.
especially when I'm learning. Um, and I feel like I only just like 2023, 2024 kind of hit a mark where I'm happy with what I'm making. I'm happy with my designs. I'm kind of stepping into the role as business owner, as designer, as fabricator, as the person who's doing it all. And that's mainly from when I learned um, wax carving and sculpting and our casting process. I was able to finally obtain these designs that have been floating in my brain for the last however long. Um, and that was like an aha thing for me. It was just, oh, this is how I do this. This is so exciting. And so I've taken that and I've been running with it ever since. So 2024 was all about kind of developing my favorite kind of base designs that I wanted to work with. And I feel like I'm there. So now the next step is going to be solidifying that and moving forward with growing my audience. And then hopefully this year I'm going to have time to do some new designs and some more creative stuff. And that's where my battle is most of the time, is just getting things continuing to move forward and selling and being happy and making customers happy and so on, but also having the time to do what I set out to do, which is to make unique designs. So that balance is kind of what my goal is for this year, is to strike that balance.
Yeah, I love that. And so, what you shared about that discomfort at being perceived,
Mm-hmm.
I love how you put that into words, because that is something so many people struggle with. And it's really hard, especially when you spent 10 years, got to a place where people perceive you as an expert in a certain area and industry. And then you have to go start again. It's very different when you're starting from scratch and you're 21. It's very different when you're like, oh, I hit this like top mark in my other career or business, and now I'm going to go into this different industry and I'm starting right at the bottom. And a lot of people have such a deep fear of being perceived as like, not putting out good enough designs, or not doing this or not doing that, that they actually don't allow themselves to even take that step, and don't even allow themselves to put their jewelry out. So I just want to give a massive shout out to you, Caitlyn, because you felt the fear and the discomfort, which is so, so valid, at putting stuff out there when you are brand new, when, hey, maybe I don't even know how to make jewelry kind of thing. But you put it out there, you started selling, and you started getting real market feedback and allowing your brand to grow from there, which is so important. You've probably seen in the JBA, we have got some clients who waited like 5, 10, 15 years to actually start their business before they came into the program, because of that fear of like, oh no, my collection has to be 100% perfect before anyone even knows I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't get you, like, that just puts you in this place of freeze, and it makes
Mm-hmm.
you so anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, yeah, so what if something breaks, you fix it. If it's really doesn't work, you refund them.
Mm-hmm.
Worst case, you actually are learning. So I'm so glad that you did that. And I just want to encourage anyone who's listening, who's in those early stages, or who's exploring a new style of making jewelry or whatever, don't let that hold you back from going out there, getting your products out there, and actually selling. Because we compare ourselves up to people who are like 15 years ahead of us, but actually, like, jewelry is jewelry. Like, jewelry is a form of art. Just because it's made when you were a newer artist doesn't mean it's any less of a piece of art.
Right. And putting actual designs out there was never my fear, really. I struggle more with the social media marketing and actual copy, kind of putting that stuff out there. But the actual
Yeah.
designs, my goodness, how else are you going to learn whether they appeal to people, or what's good about them or bad about them, if they're comfortable or too bulky or spin on a finger, or they, chains too short, too long, what have you,
Mm-hmm.
unless you put them out there. And you're the designer. You get to decide what happens to them. And as long as you're not a jerk and you're polite and you repair what breaks or refund what they don't like or this or that, what's the holdup? Just put the designs out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, do you remember, Caitlin? Because obviously, the way you show up on Instagram now, you've built that confidence. I know it's still continuing to grow, but you show
Bit by
up
bit.
bit by bit. Yeah, it's growing. But when you were talking about that fear of showing up, I want to talk about that a little bit more, because that is something so many artists, so many designers really struggle with. It's that fear of showing up, because in our body, it feels like, wow, this is like really a dangerous thing to be doing. When we look at like, well, what are the actual fears? Do you want to talk through what those, like, if you had to share what those actual fears are? Is it like, oh my gosh, Sarah from high school is going to see what I'm doing? Or like, what were the fears? Do you remember?
um they kind of ebb and flow and come and go and change, I think. I think particularly these days, there's always an underlying fear of upsetting somebody or triggering somebody or offending somebody. There's that, but then there's also just in the jewelry world, especially when I started, less so now, but I always had this huge fear of some expert goldsmith being like, "What are you doing? That's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that." I'm like, that's silly, but that's how I felt. Still get a little bit of that now, but less so. And I think just it's almost like a nonsensical kind of fear that people are watching and waiting to pick fault,
Mm.
which is kind of a self-centered way of thinking, because it's like, Katie, nobody cares. Nobody is sitting there refreshing your Instagram, waiting for your next post so they can be like, holy, that's awful. You suck. Like, it's just, I know that logically it doesn't make sense, but that fear is still there. And overthinking every single post that's like, okay, well, I want to say that, like, I was just doing it earlier today. You probably didn't see my stories, but I was talking about releasing my bangles for pre-order for 10 days. And I had to convince myself to make these posts because that little voice is saying, well, don't do it yet. Are you 100% certain that this is what you want to do and this is how you're going to do it? And if you have to take the story down, what then? And people are going to tell you you're not putting the right information. Like, it's just a constant. So yeah, it never goes away. It's just a matter of taking that breath and quieting that voice and doing it anyway. What's that famous quote?
Um,
Doing it scared, right?
yeah, doing
Yeah.
it scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because yeah, you're definitely not the only person. I think a lot of people listening are going to really resonate with this. And it's our inner critic who's trying to keep us safe because the
Mm-hmm.
reality is, putting ourselves out there in the olden days would have really put us in a position where our lives were potentially at threat because
Mm.
when you're an outsider, when you do things against the norm, when you put yourself out there to be too visible, well, you're in trouble if we were talking like several hundred years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, like the impact of that is, yeah, maybe somebody's mean or somebody trolls you or somebody's like, oh my gosh, this is wrong. And also, how many times has that happened? Probably never. Um,
Never.
but our
Never.
body's like, oh my God, what if that happens? And so our inner critic is really there to kind of protect us and just keep us safe. That's all they're trying to do. And I think what makes such a big difference is recognizing that our body and our minds are here to keep us safe, not to keep us growing.
Right.
And when we recognize that, it's like, okay, yes, my feelings around this are so valid. I have this fear, so valid. The fear of being canceled, so valid because cancel culture is very real. I will say for anyone listening, it's damn hard to be canceled. Like, honestly, I'd almost say it's a marketing strategy because nothing's going to boost your business quite like being canceled. If you don't believe me, give it a try. It's really hard, number one, to be canceled. And I have people I know who have been canceled and their business 10 times overnight. Like
Really?
the best thing for their business. So,
Wow.
um, like I do not support cancel culture at all. I just don't think in any situation people should be canceling. I think it's a form of bullying. But
Right.
if it happens, it's also like, okay, this is probably going to be better for your business than you probably realize, even though it feels like it's the worst thing that could happen. It's also very hard for people to care enough about you and your business to cancel you. Like,
Well, exactly. That's kind of the
really
big
hard.
thing. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. But that fear of like, oh, well, what if I say something that offends someone? Like, I think what I've realized is I do not tiptoe around people. And I'm really clear about that in the JBA as well, because people have different triggers to different things. And I am not responsible for your triggers. Like, and it's really important for people to recognize, and I hope nobody's being triggered by this listening to this right now. But when we give our power away and we allow other people to have that power over us and trigger us, well, we're giving all our power away and we're telling ourselves we're a victim. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when you're a victim and you see yourself as a victim in life, you lose all control and you feel like things are happening to me. You feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's a really bad mindset and you cannot build a business from a
Mm-hmm.
victim mindset. I honestly don't care what anyone's going through. We have clients who are going through death, divorce, health issues, like all of those things, and they don't see themselves as a victim, because the minute you do, you can have moments of feeling like a victim, sure, but long term, it's a really dangerous thing. And what cancel culture tries to do, I think this is a separate podcast, but it tries to put as many people into that victim mindset as possible, and
Yes.
it gives you a way to control people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not all for that. And so I just wanted to share that, because I think there's a lot of people who are new business owners who are so scared of being canceled. Like, oh my gosh, there's this crisis going on in the world. If I post about my jewelry today, are people going to think that I don't care about this because I'm trying to sell jewelry? And it's like, no, sell your jewelry, post every single day. I post every single day. Doesn't matter what's going on in the world, because um, ultimately it's my job. If
Yeah.
your corporate job was like every day when there's bad news, please don't work, please go home,
Right?
like that's not never going to happen. But for
No.
some reason, when you're a small business owner, you feel like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be selling today because this is happening or that's happening. But yeah, I got sidetracked, Caitlin, so tell me your thoughts on that.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think the biggest kind of nugget that I pull out of that is um, your own sense of control of your situation or your narrative or your business. You give it up when you give into that victim mindset. And it's easy to do. Um, but you have to just not. You have to keep doing your posts, doing your thing every day, and other people's reactions and thoughts and feelings belong to them and yours belong to you, and it's your job and you're going to go out and do it every day.
Hmm.
And that's all you can do, really. Like what else are you going to do?
Yeah, 100%. So what would you say has been like the most challenging moments in your business building journey?
Most challenging. Hmm. The most challenging in terms of just like figuring it out has been working out how to convince people to make purchases on my website. I'm still working on that, and I know just from the JBA, the things that I have to do, the actions that I have to take. I'm working on it, but I'm still not there yet, which is to be expected. But my thing is with my work, if I can get it in front of a person in person and I can get them to touch it, feel it, try it on, it's probably going to sell.
Mm.
It's it's the selling online that I've been struggling with, and making that connection and that trust for people to do that. I have a good handful of people who buy on my website. Like the majority of people who are buying on my website right now are repeat purchasers. It's just getting new people to come in and join the party that's been a struggle for me. And I'm
Mm.
working on it.
Yeah. No, online sales is the most challenging revenue stream for most jewelry business owners. And
Mm-hmm.
for everybody, it takes different amounts of time to get it to where they want. Everyone has those different goals. But as you said, like when you're in front of people, it's easy to sell. And it's like, how do we translate that online? And I know you're still like, you're just going through like implementing stuff from the JVA and stuff. And it still takes time. Like for everybody, that timeline is going to be different. Um, and I think, I don't know if you fell into this. Have you ever tried to run ads or anything, Caitlin?
Not ads, but I've done boosted posts.
Oh, yeah. No, boosted posts are fine. But yeah, the ads. I think a lot of people try and push online sales by paying somebody to run ads for them or paying an expert to do SEO optimization. And it's like, okay, these are all cool, great, throw money at the wall kind of things. Do they work? Yes, long term with a lot of money. If you have a ton of money in your bank account, great. But if they don't, driving organic traffic to your website is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes time, and it depends on how many Instagram followers have, how engaged they are, how good you are at showing up consistently, how you show up, not just like ticking the content box, but okay, am I showing up in a way that we're hitting the different buyer types? Am I doing this? Are we building our email list? What does that look like? Are we reaching out to them? Are we nurturing them? And so there's so many things that come into play. And even with the best strategy in place, it takes time. And
Yes.
that's where a lot of people fall off, because they're like, oh my gosh, I did this for 3 weeks and I'm
Yeah.
not seeing results. And it's like, oh my goodness, it takes a little longer unless you're an established business with like 100,000 people on your email list. Well,
Yeah.
that's a different story. But yeah, thank you for sharing that, Caitlin. So I'm curious to know, I know you touched on this earlier where you're like, I can't believe I get to make jewelry every day. But what would you say is your favorite part or your favorite thing about being a jewelry business owner?
Ooh. Um, there are lots of things that I love about this. Obviously, as a creative person, it's the sitting down at the bench and making new cool stuff
Mm-hmm.
is my favorite part. And not only just that fact, but the whole process of it is wonderful. There's an artist who I've been following for years. She's quite well known online. But one of her favorite things to say is do it for the process. And I really believe in that, especially with this. And the process of making jewelry, as I'm sure everybody knows, can be filthy and painful or difficult. But there's something about it, something about working with my hands that is so satisfying. And it's something that was missing for me too when I was doing photography. Um, Even working in the darkroom doing that kind of stuff, it was super fun. But this is just so rewarding and so fascinating. It's like science and art, and the historical aspect of jewelry is fascinating, and the emotional connection that people form to their pieces. It's such a cool field to be working in, and I feel so lucky.
Mm. I love that. You know what's jumping out to me, Caitlin, is when you talked about falling in love with the process and working with your hands, because I think in today's world, everything's all digital. I mean, I even look at the work I do, digital.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many benefits to it. I love so much of it. But what we're missing in today's society is, especially for people with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
and that is we need to physically see the work we're doing come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to in the olden days, like whatever you were working on, you'd see it physically come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very rare nowadays. And so I think from what I'm hearing is like that process of being involved in the process, having all these different elements to making jewelry, and then having the finished piece and being like, here it is. It's in my
Mm-hmm.
hands, and now
Yes.
I'm shipping it out. That
Yes.
process is like really, really satisfying to us. And I actually have a whole podcast talking about this, because this is the positive feedback loop we get from
Yes.
bringing a physical piece to life, which
Yes.
is so beneficial for a lot of like ADHDers. It's also very healing for anyone who's gone through like anything traumatic or like a really stressful season. There's something that's been studied where when you work with your hands physically like that, um, it's like a form of therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. It totally is.
So yeah, I love that you shared that. And then obviously, yeah, falling in love with the process is key. If you don't like the process, you're in the wrong industry because
Yeah.
you can't just be there for the results. The results take too long to get to.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So obviously you've been in the JBA for a couple of months now. I'd love to talk a little bit just about your experience, Caitlin. And so before we even talk about your experience, can you think back to before you signed up with the academy? What challenges were you facing at that stage, and how are you feeling?
I think my biggest challenges, I mean, probably the same challenges that most people are going to be facing is, I'm not getting the sales that I want, and I am struggling with knowing what my next step should be in terms of marketing. What should I be doing in terms of events? Like, what should I be doing? There's so many options out there and so many different ways of doing everything that I was just so confused. I'm always a little confused, but I was I was really confused and frustrated. And one of the biggest things that appealed to me about JBA was, yes, the instruction and um, that kind of try this, and this, but also community and just having other business owners to speak to and a coach to speak to, people who could validate my fears and my concerns and my experiences and share in them as well, because I was feeling very isolated. Um, and that has all changed since joining, because I have been able to bounce ideas off of other members and off of you and get feedback and direction. Like, it's so nice to feel like I have a direction to work in. Like, yes, I'm still figuring it out and still learning, but I understand what needs to be done at this point. It's just a matter of digging my feet in and doing it,
Mm,
which is
yeah.
exciting.
It is exciting, and I'm excited for you and your business. And so, obviously, you did decide to join, but was there anything that almost made you not sign up?
Um, well, I actually was thinking about shutting down the business entirely.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was a tough time. It was there was a lot going on in my personal life, and the business was, I think 2023, I was actually, my sales were down from 2022. Um, and I just was struggling, like spending all this time every day just trying to figure out what my next step should be. And I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna throw in the towel, because this is just making me feel crazy, like I was with photography. I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels.
Mm.
And then I was listening to your podcast actually, and I thought, maybe I should actually, like, I've never had any education in the business side of things, let alone jewelry specific. So maybe we give that a go before deciding to pull the plug. So that was kind of, both the hesitation was like, maybe I should just stop, and the kick was like, okay, well, maybe not, let's try something first
Mm.
and see what happens.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that you were at that point of like shutting things down. And I'm so glad you decided to, get that education when it comes to the business and marketing side and actually like go and do the work for that. Because I think that's one of the things where down the line, years from now, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I
Mm-hmm.
would have made it happen and where would I have been, and like doing something when it's something that lights you up and when it's something that has such a positive impact on your life. So I'm so glad that you did do that. And I think that also helps some people listening to this who maybe are where you were, where they're like, oh my gosh, am I going to quit or am I going to double down on this business? Like, where are we? And I think it's always helpful to see evidence of, number one, you're not alone in feeling that way. There's other people
Right.
going through that.
Yeah.
And okay, you know what? Let me maybe double down on this, or, maybe it is time to call it quits, whatever stage you're at. But how do you feel now in the academy?
Now I feel very much less alone. I feel like I have resources behind me where, if I'm confused or stuck on something, that I actually can get help. Whether it's a matter of just flipping back through course content, which is often helpful, or asking in the Facebook group to the community, or asking you directly in one of our calls, I'm going to get an answer. It may not always be an answer that I'm excited about, but it will be an answer. And that just gives me the confidence, because you and the community don't care what my jewelry looks like. You're not going to judge how all of that comes together. You are going to help me sell it. And that's kind of the long and short of it. It's you're there to help, and there's no judgment, and there's no this and no that, and no um objective judgment. It's just, here's how we do it. This is what you have to do. You have to act, which is a big thing with having the community there as well, is a little bit of accountability. Um, and it's been super, super helpful. I have to admit, I have not made the huge steps since joining that I wanted to, just because I've had some things get in the way in my personal life, but it's coming together. It's happening little bit by little bit. And I'm just so, so thankful to have this resource. It's been huge.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that, Caitlin. And yeah, the reality is life happens. Like things happen in our
Mm-hmm.
personal life, things happen that we have no control over. And it does sometimes mean like, oh my gosh, I planned on like doubling down on my business and now this is happening. And this is why I have a business. So I can step back and I can allow room for whatever's going on in my personal life. My business will be there for me when I'm ready to dive back in. And that's also why we make the training a full year, because the reality is we
Hugely
take that
helpful.
into accountability. Like I don't have one client that hasn't had any personal situations coming up. And so it's like you need that time and you need to work through the blocks that come up when it comes to actually implementing some
Yes.
of the things. And so, yeah, that's why we have that timeline. So, what would you say is your favorite part of being in the JBA?
Oh, our weekly group calls are for sure my favorite thing. And I know I am not the most vocal with the biggest questions in those calls, but I love being there and I love hearing everybody else's questions. And when I have a question, it's there, it's answered. Everybody is offering help and resources for any given question. And even if I'm like, for example, over the holidays, when I was losing my mind busy trying to make enough stuff, I was still jumping on the calls just to listen, almost like a body doubling kind of thing. And it was hugely helpful.
Yeah, you're on almost every call, I think, and you're always
Yeah.
working away in your studio. I love seeing you there, and I'm so glad to hear that you're enjoying those because I think for some people they hear group calls and they're like, "Ew, no."
Yeah, I was for sure. At first, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
No, they're awesome. They're really, really good.
amazing. And so, what would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned since being in the JBA?
Um, I mean, probably what you say often, which is doing what's required, and implementation. And I know those are two kind of broadly sweeping ideas, but and kind of obvious, but they're so important. And you can learn, like, I've got a binder full of stuff here, notes and printouts and whatever, but until I'm able to implement, none of it's going to make a difference. So implementation has been the biggest thing. And it's not that I didn't expect that I it's like, oh, I'm just going to go listen and then my
Yeah.
business is going to just improve so much. I knew that I was going to have to implement, but it's something about actually being in the program and having those discussions and the group chats and the lessons from you that really drives home. You have to actually do the work.
Mm.
And that's, I need that reminder. I need that constant reminder because I'm one of these people who, yes, I can take things and learn them and implement them, but this little nugget of new information, I'm going to take it and I'm going to hold it and turn it over and maybe chew on it a little bit before I add it to my pile of things that I do, because that's just how I am as a person. But I have learned that yes, I can turn it over and chew on it, but it has to go in the pile of things that I do.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's worthless, right?
Oh, yeah. That is big. Implementation is like a huge focus and doing the work. I wish I had a magic wand where I could be like, here, take this magic pixie dust and sprinkle it over your business and we're going to be good. But doing the work, what I find is, yeah, it feels like, oh my gosh, I have to actually do it. But you grow into another level version of yourself through the work, which when you fall
Yes.
in love with that and you fall in love with that process makes such a difference.
Yes, it's been wild, interesting, just learning to be a person who can handle things,
Mm.
which is historically has never been me. Like I am just like a panic and ignore kind of person. But as a business owner, you have to learn and you have to understand that if you want your business to do well, you're going to have to implement and take action. And then as you do that and as your business grows, like you say, the problems don't get smaller or fewer, they get bigger and more. You just get better at handling them. And that has been wild. Sometimes it's like watching myself from a different perspective when I'm handling a problem. It's like, I didn't know I could do that. That's kind of cool. Look at you go.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Ah,
That's huge. Yeah, you like it, and it takes practice and it takes being
mhm.
aware of it as well. And you're doing such a great job, Caitlin. So, what would you say have been some wins, big or small, that you've celebrated since joining?
Wins, I would say. Um, the biggest ones would be getting into a couple of really big shows, which I had been applying to ever since I first started my business. Every year, apply, apply, apply. And then I finally got in this year. And as I expected, they were my biggest shows of the year. One of them, I was able to kind of look in my Shopify and see it was like my third biggest referrer for website traffic was their website. So it was huge for me.
Mm.
Um, and also, just like I was just saying, the confidence thing, it's kind of an intangible thing to describe as a win, but feeling like I can speak from my chest more as a business owner has been huge. And I think that's one of the biggest things about the JBA and having that as a resource and that community as a resource is just feeling like, okay, I'm not crazy when I say or feel or think these things, and I can kind of project that into the world. That's a big win as well. And yeah, just sorting out kind of my core collection this year has been huge, and feeling really confident in that and the process I have set up for that. So those are my three biggest wins, I think, of last year.
Amazing. I love that. And I'm so glad we're bringing you on early on in your journey so we can bring you back on in a couple of months to hear the updates.
Yeah, I really
Um,
feel I'm on a precipice right now. I'm I'm definitely feeling like things are about to get wild. So it's definitely we're just at the beginning here.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for you. So what would you say to somebody who's listening who maybe is where you were a few months ago, dealing with the similar challenges and they're thinking of joining the Jewelry Business Academy? Would you recommend it based on your experience so far? And what would you say to them?
Yes, I would. The thing about these kinds of things is that they're an investment in yourself and in your business. And first of all, monetarily, it's going to pay for itself, but also it's the value of it can be kind of intangible and you're not really going to know what it is until you're in it, but it will be there and you will be glad that you did it because it's it's huge. It's huge to feel like you have a team behind you, which, when you're a business owner and it's just you, it can be so isolating. So you need the education, you need the team. It's worth it.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that, Caitlin. And I'm not paying her to say this, guys. But yeah, it's so true. It is definitely an investment, and you see tangible and intangible results. And it's not a easy investment either.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. We're very aware of that. And so, yeah. So, what would you say? Is there anything that we haven't touched on? I think I really like the direction our conversation went into today, Caitlin, talking about like messy action and all that stuff. But is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to share, or do you think we've covered it all?
I think we've covered it all. I mean, I don't, like I said, I'm kind of, and that's kind of what I was worrying about a little bit last night that we were talking about before we started recording was just that imposter syndrome feeling of like, oh, Robin wants to talk to me. I don't have anything to share, but
Mm-hmm.
because I'm feeling like, oh, I've only just got my feet under me business wise, and I'm about to kind of take those steps and start moving forward. So,
Mm-hmm.
more to come, to be continued.
To be continued. I can't wait to bring you back on. And thank you so much for being here, Caitlin, and sharing your journey so openly with our listeners. I know
Happy
we're going to
to.
have lots of people feeling inspired and excited by your journey and your story. So, where can our listeners find you and how can they support you?
Oh, you can find me on my Instagram at Caitlyn Chapman Studio, and of course on my website at CaitlynChapman.com.
Amazing. We will link those in the show notes so anyone listening can go click on those and connect with Caitlin. But Caitlin, this has been so much fun. Thank you for joining me, and I cannot wait for next time.
Thank you for having me, Robin. It was so fun.